Alright, so we can do another one for logic stuff too. Okay, so now take a look at our player. So we have move, health, and all that stuff. So the health we have those two things, and you know what, that's probably fine. I'm going to prefab him as is. Take this guy, let's rename him to enemy, and we can probably just reuse these FSMs, but obviously alter them. So we would need a way to detect the player. Now if there's only one player, you could just literally just target the player and call it good, but that may not be the best choice in some cases. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the plane, come out of 2D mode, and we're going to mark it as static. Actually, I'm going to mark everything in this whole thing as static, and then I'm going to go to the navigation, and if you don't have that, go Windows, AI, Navigation, and we're going to bake, and we should get this blue thing. Make sure this is on or you won't see it. And there we have more or less pathing, right? So on the AI, or what's going to be our AI, we can now add a nav mesh agent. All right, so he is now AI. So let's add, let's say movement. Actually, no, let's just wipe that out. That one can actually stay. We can reuse that one. So the AI needs a way to more or less find and shoot the player. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to okay, we know this map is a certain size. Do I want to use that? Let's get random float, and let's take a look at this map sizing. Right, if I go to this corner, we know we're at 54 on the X to about 170. So I'm going to go 54 to 170. That's going to give me an X. And then we know we're at a, say, a 47 to a negative 46. That could be the Z. Get rid of our little cube, our little measuring device. Right. So we've got these two random floats. So now let's set vector 3 XYZ. And we'll call this target position XZ. And we're going to do this thing called nav mesh sample position. And we're going to give it the target position. And what this will do, let's look at the nav mesh. So that random float could be anywhere. And what we don't want to happen is what if it lands right here? Well, there's not a nav mesh here, right? And that could potentially cause issues. Now, with the sizing of that, it wouldn't, but that is something that can cause issues. So the sample position says, okay, this is the position. It says, oh, I'm going to find you the closest nav point from that, right? Hopefully it doesn't do those. There's ways around that. We can fix that in a second. So then we say, okay, so this is the return position. And this is the closest point to this point, but on the nav mesh. right? Set agent destination to the return position, right? And then now let's get position. Move this one way up to the top, and this is going to be our start position, not every frame. And then we're going to copy that. No, we don't want to copy that. Start position. No, he does need to be every frame. Yes. All right, so vector 3 operator. So we need, at the very bottom, our start position to our return position. Calculate the distance, which will give us a float every frame. And float compare. Nope, not with bools. Forgot I had that one in here. And put him way at the bottom now. So if distance is, say, I don't know, under 5, get new position every frame, right? He's not actually going to be the start state. He's just going to be a more or less a wandering state. And we could also have another one for set agent destination as game object. So that could be to the player, more or less. To which, you know what we'll do? We're going to use a global. We're going to call it the player. And then this one's going to have a random weight of, I don't know, anywhere from, say, 3 to 6 seconds. And then he can also get a new position. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have, I'm going to put get new position here, delete these two. This will just make it easier, right? So now we have get new position, we have wander and chase. So all this is going to do is a random event, right? We can give it 2 events. Event 1, event 2, 1, 2, and it just goes down here. So it's going to be doing one of those, right? And then when those are done, it'll loop. It'll just keep firing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So yeah, I guess we could just make this guy a start state. No, we don't, because we need to get a global. So he'll wait 1 frame and do that. So under the player, that means the player, we need a way to mark him as a global. Oh my god, I got 2 players. I think I used the lowercase one. That's probably from a different tutorial. So let's just double check that, because that's going to mess me up. Yeah, lowercase one. Alright, cool. Now the other thing, so that alone right there is going to have it so this little AI is going to start driving around. Right, he'll chase the player a bit here and there. Then he might take a different tactic. Oh, let's see what he's thinking. He's in the wander state. He's getting position. distance to returned is infinite. Okay, so let's fix that. I was worried about that. So this here is we're going to use an event here. I'm just going to use the finished event. It's just an easy way to keep things done. I want to make sure that all the calculations are done. For the operator and the compares. And then, yeah, so he isn't. So this one's just getting the position. Right. Let's see if he's a little smarter now. Oh, he's still infinite. Why is the return position infinite? It should not be infinite. Alright, let's extend this guy back out to 10. Here's another trick. So say we're here and we're in play mode and we're just trying to test something. If I hold down Alt and click on a state, it'll fire off the event. Right, so we see he is traveling still infinite. Why is that infinite? Return position. I'm going to take away that for a minute. There is no error. He is infinite. Stuff in the next frame in there, see if that fixes him. It should not be infinite because we have the nav mesh. Probably missing something really stupid too. We'll find out. Right, so no, he is still showing infinite. Cloud masks everything. That is odd. Oh yeah, so upping that. I mean, you shouldn't have to do that though. I probably got the distances of the back and forth all messed up. Right. So I mean, I could go back and see. I could try to fix those, but you know what? I'm just going to take this up and we'll call it good. I mean, it should be okay. And if need be, we can put a thing in there to prevent that anyways. Right, yeah, so I mean 20 should be fine. Alright, so let's get rid of the next frame. No nearest point, we can use finished. If there is no nearest point, we'll get a new position. We'll just redo the process. That should be fine. Now we could add, get a distance here and redo it if it's, or do a different thing if we're too close to the player. So, but the other thing I want to do is we're going to add a little piece of logic on this guy. and he is going to is also going to have a next frame event. So we do the next frame, we come along here, and then we are going to smooth look at. And ourselves are going to look at the player. And this will be quite slow. We'll keep it vertical. Finish tolerance. We'll open that up so it's like that. And then it could use, well, I could just use a finished event. And when we've looked, what do we want to do? Then we can, let's raycast. So we want to be able to tell if there's something in the way. So we're going to raycast space self direction. We're going to go on our Z. We can go 200, and we only are okay. We're going to use. No, we're not going to use that. So we're going to have a hit event and a non-hit event, and the object hit. And all we want to do is, if we hit an object, we want to compare. And we can also compare tag as well. We want to compare the object hit with the player. And if they're equal, then we know we have a clear path to the player, so we can shoot. If they're not equal, then we'll just do a wait. And if there's no hit, then it's also going to end up doing that wait. So just come down here for now. So we're going to shoot. So I think what we should do, let's add another FSM, and this will be the actual shooting FSM. So if we shoot, we can, let's set a bool. Can shoot. And then we're just going to come back to the smooth look at. But we don't want to come back right away. We always want to wait a next frame. We don't want to just re-enter the same loop we just left from while still being in the same frame. That's not a good thing. So that's going to be a true. We can just copy that whole state actually. And if that's the case, then this is going to be a false. And then he can go back there. Alright, so in the actual shooting, all we're going to do is get FSM bool, and we're going to go into our FSM and pull the can shoot. So we're reading if we have sight of the player, and then we're going to say, okay, well, we're going to do a test, and if this is true, then we can shoot. And we can copy this whole state, paste it here, and in this one it's not going to be that, it's going to be stop shooting. And he can just go back and forth. Now while he's in here, let's do a float add, and we'll have a timer, or we can call this rate, like rate of fire. Add 1 per second every frame. Float compare. So when rate of fire hits. You know, how fast do we want to shoot? Every like second, every half second? Let's say every second. Once it's greater, then we need to actually create the bullet. And the other thing we need to do is set our little rate value to 0 because we're firing now. We want to transform the direction of our cannon. Just going to be this object itself. It's forward, and we'll do that same 100. And we want to pooler spawn a bullet at the muzzle, which we have to reparent that muzzle, store the bullet, set velocity of the bullet that we've just created to that same direction, world space, and then we can next frame event and then go back, right back to this guy. And as long as we can keep shooting, he will keep counting down and keep firing. So now the other thing we need to do is, if this cannon's spinning, I'm going to raise him up just a bit. I'm not going to put him above because I want him to be able to hit objects. And we got to put the muzzle as a child to him. So that way, if we spin the cannon, this muzzle actually moves. And then we also want to actually move the actual graphic we have. Right, so now it's doing this. The muzzle will always be out in front. Alright, so now let's see what our little AI is going to do. Okay, so let's see what the AI is thinking. So he is currently hitting cube 2. So he is inside this guy. Right, so he's got issues. So one of the other things is we're going to take these cubes, not the big cube. Oh yeah, I guess that's fine. And add. Okay. Shh. So the other thing we're doing is we're going to carve the navigation. And you'll see that got rid of the AI that's in there, or the nav mesh that's in there. And then the other thing we want to do is we're going to go over to the AI tank here. And you see how his nav mesh is actually this little guy here, and it's really tiny compared to the size of the tank. So we're actually going to take his radius up, and his radius should be around 2, right? Okay, so that makes a little more sense. But now the other thing we want to do is we want to actually bake these proper sizes in. So the radius is 0.5, and if I set it to 2, it's going to be like, well, look at this weird stuff, you need to alter things, right? And which is fine, it's not a big deal, right? So the slope needs to be less than whatever. And we don't have any slopes to begin with, so it's not a big deal, right? And you can see that actually opened up the spots, and that'll prevent that issue. Right, so now we have this little guy. He's running around. He is so accurate. Oh. Oh man. Right, so now the other thing is we can adjust the speed of our AI. Right? We can say take him up to 6. Angular speed. Let's actually slow him down. You know, you think of a tank and you think, oh, well, he should be you know, not turning on a dime or anything. He should be pretty slow in that aspect. So now we can get rid of that gun. And let's get into this little cannon. Let's alter this guy just a bit. Alright, let's bring him down a little slower. Finish tolerance, let's open him up a bit. Oh, he's still so accurate. Alright, so let's bring him down a little more. Let's do that. And you know what? Let's add a little flavor here. Not much. This will help with that inaccuracy. So let's just go like -8 to 8. Call that x. Set vector 3 x, y, z. Shoot direction, and we'll use the x, and then we'll use the 100 on the z. That should bring his accuracy down a little bit for us. A little bit. Let's alter his rate of fire too, I think. Mind you, I can crank it right up. Turn that down. Right, okay, so there we have, yeah, the rate of fire is kind of comical. The rate of fire, the other thing we could do with the rate of fire, and this will actually help it seem more realistic, I think, or more live. Is let's give him a rate of fire of anywhere between, you know, 0.25, no 0.5 to 3. So he might do a couple double shots or triple shots or whatever the case is, but he could. Now, if I had a proper cannon with aiming, I think that would be a relatively fair fight. My cannon doesn't move. So let's fix that. Right, so this is our enemy. Now, let's prefab him. Just delete him for now. And I think what I'll do is on the gun, let's open this guy up. Let's transform direction of, we'll make more or less that same type of idea. So this one here, and we can call this one cannon as well. And put the muzzle and the cylinder to it. So he'll now shoot in the direction of the cannon. So then we can make another FSM. We can put it anywhere we want. And let's mouse pick. And we should make a layer for this. So let's add a layer called ground, so that we're only going to hit the ground with this mouse pick. And we should be able to smooth look at. The cannon can look at hit point with no finish tolerance. Then if we grab our ground, now we should put a null check in there, but man. That'll be a little more fair. It feels kind of weird that the shooting is on the space though. So I'm going to alter that and put that. Or, you know what, just for the sake of it, we'll have both keys in there. Like that. Alright, cool. Alright, so the other thing we're going to want now is, in the manager, let's add another FSM. And in this FSM, we're going to add a couple events. AI died. Actually, do we want to do that? Yeah, well, you know, I should have kept. Let's add a proxy and a rateless proxy. We'll call this one AI, and we'll enable the events. So when we remove AI died, there. So when an AI dies, let's what do we want to do? Let's add another one called spawn points. Numerous ways you can do spawn points, but let's just go like this. This is just an easy way. Of course, I didn't put everything on the 0. So yeah, that's fine. Not a big deal. And I'm just going to grab some of these duplicate them, pass them around. Grab all those and disable the mesh renderer and get rid of the collider. They can be spawn points and sit in there. Here's another neat little trick. You'll hit the lock button. You could procedurally find these, but you know what? And if you duplicate one in there, it's not a big deal. It pretty much just means it's going to up the chance it's going to use that spot, which isn't the end of the world. Alright. So if an AI has died, then we're going to want to array list get random. And we're going to create a new AI at the spawn point, and we're going to store that AI. And you know what? I'm going to make that the start state as well. So we'll start off with an AI, and every time the AI dies, we'll get a new one there. So the other thing we're going to need to do then is in our little health, where we have these events and stuff like that. If we create another empty, and we go next frame event, because we're going to reference a global, get root, get owner, and then we want to relist add, add to the root, to the event list, add our self. And that way now we can tap into the damage event. And if we get damage, we're going to grab the health, from the root object, and if health is 0, no, not every frame. Then we want to remove ourselves from the manager. I don't even know which manager that one is called, so we need to check that out. I'm sure I called that thing a manager, did I not? Nope, I did not. Oh, well, then I guess we need to do that too. Get owner. now have a manager, and it is a global. So now in the manager, we want to go to the AI list and remove ourself. No, we want to remove the root. Right, and then this little thing can actually be a prefab too. Just an easy way to do AI logic, I find. Then you could also add some behavior for him to hunt down health and stuff like that too. There's something weird right there happening. I'll have to look into that. Oh, you know what? Yes. The cylinder has a capsule. Right, the only capsule we want is the main one. If we're hitting this one, we're not hitting the enemy. The player needs that too, or else that would be cheating. And we don't want that. You can put a delay on the spawning and stuff like that. So there's a lot you could do with the AI. Bring in teams and explosions on the death. Now the other thing we'd need to do is clean up the health bars, right? So kind of like how we have this guy here, we would want that same bit of logic but on the health bar as well, right? So that when if the health is 0, right, if value equals 0, then we're going to need to destroy the health bar. Which is one of the really, like, for the ways of structure, I really like the event system with the empty game objects as little chunks of logic, because it becomes really easy not only to troubleshoot, but to modify stuff, right? Like we have that piece of logic there that is the health bar. It's just a health bar. It's all it contains. Everything in it is there, and it's for the player, it's for the enemy, it's for everything. It doesn't like fucking matter. So if there's an issue with the health bar, we just go into that object and alter that object, and then it fixes it for everybody, right? And you're not screwing around with 1,000 different FSMs or different types of FSMs or variations or whatever the case is. It's just the one. So anyways, hopefully this tutorial helped you out a little more, learned a few more things. Probably a bit of a longer one, but it's good. I think the only thing left would be if you wanted a score system, which can now tap into the manager, right? Because if an AI has died, we know we can add one to the score. But we might save that for another time. So I'll talk to you guys later.